So I started a Moneyball save on FM24, and quite frankly, it's the most fun that I've had playing Football Manager in ages. I adore this save. We are Brentford. We started our first season by overachieving. We finished 6th place in the Premier League after bringing in 1 or 2 players using our Moneyball system. We then backed that up after a few more signings by finishing 5th. If you haven't watched that video, it's a long one, but that's basically the TLDR of that particular video. This season, the aim is clear. We need to see if we can build on 5th place, as well as signing some players that are undervalued and that we think can make us win right now, continue to build and grow our club through the Moneyball approach, and aim for Champions League, as well as trying to sign Victor Gyökeres, because that was basically what we spent most of the video trying to do last time. I think a good place to start today's video is on this screen here. It is our finances, which I think just sums up how well this Moneyball approach is working here. We've gone from, at the very beginning of the save, having 38.35 as our overall balance, and these days, on the 1st of June 2025, the balance is over £215 million, and this is whilst, importantly, that we are also improving on the pitch. 6th place, then 5th place, and with a team that I think is a lot better than we started with. We've managed to bring in players that are cheap compared to their actual values, using data to try and extract which players we should go for. And also we've sold players at the top of their price ranges. We've been pretty lucky, I think, so far that we've had some interest from Saudi Arabian teams. But Vitaly Janelt and Damsgaard and Nathan Collins were performing quite well for us, which I think attracted teams like Al Ahly to go and spend, I mean, there's £150 million in just from those there. And then we managed to spend that on players. I think we've got a bargain, for example, on a player like Morten Frendrup, who has already become really, really important for us. And if you actually compare him to other defensive midfielders, he holds up pretty well, even data-wise. Look at the progressive passes for a defensive midfielder. He wins his tackles. He gets lots of assists as well, 8 assists in the league. He's so important for us, and he costs 15 million. Like, if you're signing Premier League players for 15 million, you're doing a good job. I think we've been very successful so far. We did splash the cash a little bit. I signed Mikey Moore. The rationale behind that one being that I wanted to try and bring in some young players that were going to be homegrown in nation, because we were a little bit tight on our registration. I actually think we might have to tweak our recruitment plan or vision or approach slightly, just because of the registration rules, and also because I don't know how this jump is going to be a big one. To go from a 5th place team to trying to break into that top 4. We looked at some of the data at the end of the season, didn't we? To try and make this jump now, we might need to invest in younger players that can become elite, top 4 quality players, because I don't know if we're going to be able to go and sign them, because they're playing for the top 4 teams most of the time anyway, and that means they're expensive, and that's not really Moneyball that way. So I'll talk you through everything that we are doing as we go through, because it's going to be a long one. Again, you guys seem to love the long format of these videos. You liked how much detail we're going into. I said it before, but it's a Moneyball save. I think you have to look at all of the details. So we're going to go with the same approach today. It's going to be maybe a long one. I don't quite know how long. We'll see how long. We're going to go and do season number 3 and season number 4 of this save. And thank you so much, by the way, for the reception on video 1. It was overwhelming, to be honest. So many lovely, lovely comments. I really am glad that you're enjoying it. And also the video's done very well as well, which is always a nice thing for me. Let's jump into it then by going from this point here with this squad here that performs so well, with superstars like Keane Lewis-Potter, who's been so good, and Emmanuel Omega, who, I mean, he scored 32 goals last year. We signed him for £16.75 million, and he outscored Haaland. I'm going to say this so many times, and I know it sounds like I'm saying that's number one, but that's Moneyball, isn't it? We've got a player that can win for us right now and give results to us on the pitch right now for cheaper than counterparts that would do the same type. It would produce the same type of stats that would cost a lot more. Erling Haaland to Omega, I think that kind of shows it and sums it up, doesn't it? Same for the likes of Keane Lewis-Potter. And if we compare him to other attacking midfielders, he holds up pretty well percentile-wise, and even forwards, actually. With these expected assists, we kind of use him as an inside forward. So we're kind of looking between the winger ones, and also the forward ones and the attacking midfielder ones are kind of both apply to Keane Lewis-Potter and other players. What I'm going to go and do now, to build on this squad, is to go and do some transfers. We have got a huge budget and a huge wage budget, because I'm not going to really touch too much of that. We're going to go and see what we can do recruitment wise. I'm going to sell some players probably because we do have some interest in some of our players on here. If I go through actually, Frendrup and Sforza and Mbuemo and Bade and Ruslev, like I will probably end up selling these. My mantra is being, and this is my interpretation of Moneyball anyway, is if I think we get a bid that is right at the top of their value or even above their value, I'm going to accept it. The reason for that is not necessarily because it's complete Moneyball, but because I'm going to back myself to find a player that can at least produce the same results for a cheaper price. And that's my interpretation of how I'm going to be doing Moneyball here. I understand that some of you would say no to these things because we've got the money, and actually if they're performing really well for us, we don't need to sell them. I get it. I do understand that 100%, but I also want to bring in that level of challenge as well, that I don't want to stand in the way of players in a realistic way. For example, if Bayern Munich come in for Bryan Mbeumo, I think realistically he'd want to go there. So, and I think we'd back ourselves to bring in a replacement that could do what Bryan Mbeumo does for a cheaper price. So just to talk you through my approach a little bit there as well. I'm going to go and do that window now. And I guess I'll show you what I've done and maybe justify or explain the reasoning behind accepting or rejecting bids, and also the players that I've brought in. I will also make sure I pull out any of the stats and the percentiles of the players that I bring in before they sign for us and before it gets rid of all their data. So I'll see you in August sometime after we've done a bit of business. Come on. Again, thank you so much for the reception to the first video in this series, but please do continue to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It helps the videos massively. Leave me comments too, like comments and likes and everything help with the algorithm, but also subscriptions make me feel really good inside. So thank you so much. Also, you won't miss future videos. There is an actual reason, isn't there? We hit 80,000. I'm aiming for 100,000 subscribers. So if you could help out and you're not already subscribed and you do enjoy the videos, please do think about subscribing. Let's get into this transfer business. All right, so here we go then. We are now on to the 20th of August. That means that transfer window is now complete. We've actually just played the first game of our third season here at Brentford. We've beaten Bournemouth, by the way, 4-2 away from home. Goals from Carvalho, 2 from Bryan Mbeumo, and then a goal from Loic Bade as well. And you may, if you're eagle-eyed, be able to spot 1 or 2 new names in this lineup here because, as you would imagine, I've been very, very busy. I've been wheeling and I've been dealing in the transfer market. Now, let me show you what I have been up to. As you will notice that we have £245 million in our transfer budget now, £145,000 per week in the wage budget, which is, I think, slightly less than before. I have signed 3 players this summer and spent £85 million, which is, I think, it's got to be right up there in terms of our biggest outlay, at least, well, because it's only on 3 players. I've spent pretty heavily, and I feel like I need to justify it a little bit, especially because it is a Moneyball save and because you're not supposed to be spending a lot of money. Remember, my interpretation is if you can buy players for less than their value, it can still be Moneyball. And that is where I need to make that argument for Ryan Gravenberch, who has come through the door. We're trying to make this jump. I think we needed a bit more quality, like star quality. Ryan Gravenberch was available from Liverpool, transfer listed for around about £45 million. He hasn't played loads last season. So data-wise, I'll show you his data profile on the screen right now. There wasn't loads to go off. However, one thing, and the reason that I came across him in the first place is I was searching for key passes. I was looking for how can we get chances created from our midfielders, which midfielders are available that we can that create key passes often. Ryan Gravenberch was really high on that, even though, and that wasn't in terms of like per 90. His number of key passes, just the quantity, was really high compared to other players who had played way more minutes as well. And that made me think, is there something that we can tap into to get the best out of a player like Ryan Gravenberch, especially because he's transfer listed and because all of a sudden he was interested in coming to Brentford. So for £45 million, a lot of it is in future installments. One thing that is going to be a big target in today's video over the next couple of seasons is seeing if I can bring down this transfer debt, because this is something that I always rack up in every FM save. I always end up doing loads in future installments, and then it looks like we've made great signings, but actually we owe a load of money. I think we can bring this down, and it's going to be a big target of mine that by the end of this video, I want to see if I can reduce this by either through sales or by, selling players when then other teams owe us money, perhaps, or just by simply paying off some of the transfers that we've brought in so far. Ryan Gravenberch is our first signing, though. He cost us £45 million, and I do genuinely think he can help us to go to that next level. The reason that I wanted to bring him in is because I made some big sales. One of those big sales was a midfielder. In fact, a couple of them were midfielders. First up, let's start with a stalwart at Brentford and a player that I'm going to miss, genuinely, in this save. I've come to really enjoy the performances of Matthias Jensen, and he's now moved on to Crystal Palace for £7.75 million. I think he went after Gravenberch came in, I think it was. Yeah, he went on the 16th and I brought in Gravenberch on the 13th. I would have kept Matthias Jensen if it wasn't for the fact that I'd signed Gravenberch. And then I was looking at the pecking order and I was thinking, we've got Saforza, we've got Frendrup, we've got Gravenberch, and there's other players in there too that are just going to be above in the pecking order than Jensen. And it was about just under £8 million. And I just thought, it's actually not that bad for a 30-year-old. Maybe we could have got more. Maybe a season ago we could have got more. But just in terms of the number of minutes that Jensen would have played, I think it's time that we just took the money and ran with it a little bit. As well as the fact that then we also got £5 million for Onyeka after his loan at Torino. So £13 million in. It pays for one of our players that I'm going to show you in a second. It's just the business that I decided to do here. I also managed to get £10 million, rising to £11.5 million for Jayden Magoma, who hadn't played any games for us and is a young, promising centre-back, I should say. But I didn't, again, pecking order-wise, I wasn't sure he's ever going to get there. I know you can't see the stats and things on here, but £10 million felt like a lot of money for him, considering he wasn't great in the Championship for Cardiff, wasn't particularly good for Barnsley the year before that either. Can't see him getting into our team. So at £10 million, I thought we're just going to go for it. I did make sure that I put a few things in there. Yeah, we're going to get 30% of the profit on his next transfer if he does go for more than £10 million. So I think I've kind of covered myself a little bit with that one. I did want to make sure that I was, protecting my future a little bit. So there will be a bit of money for us if they do sell him for a bit of money in the future too. Also, once he plays for England, if he plays for England, which is probably not going to happen, we do get £1.4 million there as well. So he's another big money sale. And then two big ones, because our luck with the Saudi Arabian teams has continued, and long may it continue, in all honesty. Now, just to clarify on this, I know you might be like, how realistic is this? I can't say no to this, and I would like it if other teams could buy our players instead of the Saudi teams, but I also can't say no when they come in for this money. It starts with lots of teams being interested, and then when I auction the players, and if you've not seen my auction method, there are videos on the channel of how I do this. I invite bids to come in, then once the bids come in, I play the teams off each other until we get the biggest bid. It turns out that the biggest bid always ends up coming in from a Saudi Arabian team, and then our players are happy to go there because they give crazy wages. Like Al Hilal here have put Thiago Dantas on £250,000 per week. He's not going to say no to that, whereas with other teams, he would say no. So I'm going to sell him for £18 million, Dantas, a player that we have truly moneyballed. We brought in for 950k. He played for half a season for us, did okay. Loaned him out to Braga where he had a good season, 29 games. Not amazing in terms of, he got 5 assists there, which is good. The average rating isn't great. Now we've sold him for £18 million. That is a silly amount of profit. £17 million profit on a player that played 12 times for us. We're using it. We're bringing in money, aren't we? We're buying players that are way below their value and then selling them for a good amount of money. So Thiago Dantas, again, wasn't going to be high up our pecking order in midfield. We've sold him for 18 million. And then Kevin Shade, however we say his name, I don't need to worry about that anymore. He has gone to Al Ahly for £55 million. Played loads of times for us since he joined, last season especially. 22 starts in the league and then 15 off the bench. 37 appearances all in for us. One that I think he'd be a great performer for us. Didn't want to sell him. If you look at his attributes, I think he's pretty strong across the board. Did well for us, but £55 million. I can't say no to that, can I? It's silly money. And they put him on £450,000 per week. I don't love the fact that we keep selling players to Saudi, because how realistic is it? I'm not sure, but I just hope you understand my reasoning. I can't really say no to it, can I? So that's kind of just the way it is. We brought in £96 million, which I think allows us to speculate a little bit with Gravenberch. Also on a £12.5 million signing. This is a little bit more moneyball. Rodrigo Zalazar. If I pop up his profile here before I'd signed him so you can see his data. And also the next one if I swipe across, this scout report here, which really it was really prominent on there, the amount of key passes he was getting. I was looking for key passes. It's one of the things I was exploring in the market this summer. Also because I was looking at some of the data from last season. I was looking at that we weren't doing loads of key passes in our midfield or generally across our team. So I wanted to bring players in that would just naturally do that. Zalazar scored really well in that regard too. And for £12.5 million, I think he can come in and just generally improve us in that midfield. So he comes in from Braga. He's been on our shortlist for a long time now. He's a bit of an alternative to players like Angelo Stiller, who was actually interested briefly, but was about £100 million. So might have to wait on that one. By the way, Victor Gyökeres, still not interested. Still cannot sign him. Still at Sporting. The quest to sign Victor Gyökeres before the end of this save continues. I promise you I'm going to keep trying. The price might get a little bit silly and it might not be very Moneyball, but I feel like I've committed so much that I have to go and try and sign him now. So Gyökeres will be a B at some point if I have anything to do about it. Finally, though, back to our other side of our approach, which is going to be the signing of Miles Lewis-Skelly from Arsenal. Not loads of data to show on him because he hasn't played a load of football. So this is speculative from me. It's a little bit not Moneyball. I'll hold my hands up and say that. However, there is a bit of Moneyball to it in the fact that I think at 27 million, if we play him enough and if he develops enough, he will then have a value that is much higher than 27 million. I'm confident of that as well. So that is a Moneyball aspect. It's just not data driven because instead it's scout driven and it's a little bit of real football knowledge driven from me to know that he's only young and he's going to get better. But he's also English, which means we can bring him into our squad and we don't need to worry about register him because he's going to be under 21 for a couple of seasons still. Miles Lewis-Skelly, £27 million. Looks like a lot. His value is already above this, so there is that as well. I think we can give him genuine game time that can actually turn him into a really good player. At least that's my hope with him, alongside players like Mikey Moore, alongside Tyler Dibbling, alongside Keane Lewis-Potter, a core of really good young English or British players that don't need to be registered. I think it's just smart business. So speculative, yes, him and Gravenberch. A little bit more Moneyball on Zalazar. These are the signings we've made. I continue to keep looking. I continue to keep scouting. I continue to send my scouts over and around the world looking for players all over the place because I think that is the way that we're going to identify better players to come in. I've also done a few loans as well. I told you about these sales. We've also loaned out Zeballos. Didn't think he was going to play for us all that much this year. So a bit of football in Britain, in England, going to Hull on loan. I think it might be best for his career. So he's gone out on loan. They're going to pay us a little bit. We actually got in. I mean, already, look, Parma paid us 850k. We signed him for 6 million. That's almost our money back on him in terms of the transfer fee too. We didn't get much this time, but just thought it was something that I would mention. Your Moliak, I should say, could be quite good in the future. He's done very well in his first few games for Swansea on loan, where he has got himself, I mean, not great appearances. He was there last year, so I've extended it again because he had a great loan spell with them. Hopefully he's developing into a good player. He's only 22 as well. I mean, his value's all the way up at 60 million, but I just think that is way over the top. I don't think we'll get 60 million for him, but it'd be lovely if we did, wouldn't it? And also Emre Konak, we looked at him before. He's gone to Coventry on loan, and I'm hoping he gets first team football there as well as we continue to develop. We've played one game, but if we go to the Premier League, season preview wise, we're still down in 10th with the quality of our squad, but we know that we can overachieve from here. We know that our aim is top 4. We know that we've got strikers and players that can score goals. You know, Emmanuel Omega up front. Hopefully, I mean, he didn't play the first game because I got things a bit wrong with my, I played a game on the 12th, a friendly, and they were still knackered for the first game of the season. So we're a bit lucky that we've won it. I had like random players like Benjamin Frederick have to start, who's an under 20s defender who's not very good, but we got away with it and won the game. So that was a bit silly of me. We didn't need to be playing Glebe and winning 7-0 with a full strength team pretty much in here, but you know, these things happen. We then go and play West Ham, Villa, Forest, Leicester, Fulham, Sunderland before we play a genuine top team in Liverpool, and then it's Arsenal, and then it's City. So this point here might be a little bit stressful, but I'm going to go and play all of these games, and I'll see you to show you how the season has gone so far before we head in to January, where we think about transfers once again. I'll let you know how these games have gone, and hopefully we're closer to the top of the league than we are to the bottom. Fingers crossed. I'll see you then. And here we are, heading in to January 2020. Well, January 2026 is what we're heading into. It's the 29th of December. We are about halfway through our season, and we are sitting, after these results you see on the screen here, very happily exactly where we want to be. We are 4th in the league after 20 games, so over halfway. 35 points on the board. We're aiming for what? More than 68? We got 68 last season, did we? So we're sort of just below that if you count the extra 2 games that we've had here. But we're around about where we need to be. We are in 4th position. We could drop down to, we could drop down as low as 6 if West Ham win their game in hand, if City win their game in hand. But we're in the fight. We're looking for this Champions League spot. Liverpool top the league, then Arsenal, then Spurs, then us. Palace have an amazing season. They are in 5th. Then West Ham, then it's City, then Manchester United, who have recovered from that weird relegation spell at the start of season 1, haven't they? Then it's like Newcastle in 10th, Chelsea in 14th. A little bit of a weird Premier League table, to be honest, this year. But Liverpool out in front. We are, though, where we need to be, in 4th spot. You'll notice, by having a look at some of the player stats to the left-hand side here, there's not a lot of Brentford influence over there. We've not had... we've been a better team. Well, we've been a good team this year. We've played 20, won 9, drawn 8 and lost 3. I think we can massively improve. We've had a really poor spell as well, which is kind of where I pointed out that it was going to be. We actually got the Champions League draws, which muddied the schedule a little bit. But this spell here with Liverpool, then Arsenal, then Man City, we drew to Arsenal. We lost to Newcastle in the EFL Cup. Then we lost to City, lost to Napoli. But we had a really poor spell here, look, where we only won 1 game in, 6 games? We beat Newcastle in the league, but lost to Midtjylland in the Champions League. We lost to Everton in the league. We drew to Spurs. And that was quite recently. That was in December. So I'm hoping we're going to turn things around a little bit. We've got another couple of rough spells coming up. It's like the reverse of the first half of the season. We play Liverpool, then Arsenal, then City, sort of in quick succession. The end of the season's tough too with Spurs and Manchester United. So it's going to be tight, but we're going to do our very, very best here. The thing that's sort of been missing this year has been the goals of Emmanuel Omega, who scored 29 last year in the league. This year he's got 7 and 15. It's not terrible, but look at the average rating drop off. It's just not as good, to be honest. He's not been able to continue with, even the stats look pretty good here. The non-expected penalty goals, compare them to other strikers compare them to all players, they look pretty good. Compare them to strikers, and they're sort of not as strong. Doesn't lose the ball. He's big and he's strong and he doesn't lose the ball, but he's not been quite the striker that we need him to be. It's one of those now where I'm like, oh, if we get a really big bid, do I sell him? Or do we trust that he can recapture some of that form that he had last year? If we got £60 million, does that finance going to sign a Victor Gyökeres? It probably does, although he's still not interested. Heads up, we haven't signed him yet, okay? I know that we're going to keep talking about that, aren't we? So that's been a big problem this year. I was having a look at the data hub as well, and we're sort of in the same sort of place. I wanted to improve those key passes, those progressive passes. We haven't really done that. Recently, Keane Lewis-Potter has been brilliant. He scored lots of goals. He actually is one that has been holding his end of the bargain. He's got 11 goal contributions in 19. Compare him to those attacking midfielders, and yeah, he's pretty strong across the board. Compare him to strikers as well. He gets the assist. These are instead of other strikers, he is doing things that other attack, you know how I said he's like a mix. An inside forward is a mix between a striker and a winger, isn't it? The striking, the goal scoring part, he's not as high in terms of the strikers here, but all of the other stuff, winning the ball back and progressive passes and the expected assists and things, he's really strong on. He's actually wanted at the moment. Something I need to mention, if I go to the squad screen here and have a look at some of the recent 11s we've been putting out. We've had injuries, by the way. Rico Lewis tore his knee ligaments. He's been out for pretty much the whole season. So Aaron Hickey's played a lot of games. He's now suspended. We've had to play Murillo in a lot of games. He's been playing left back as well. It's been a bit of a topsy-turvy season, but I'm happy with where we're at. You see some of the stats on here. It's the 11 goals for Omega. One thing that I do need to mention is, if you look down our list of players, we have Saudi Arabian interest in Loic Badé. We have Saudi Arabian interest in Aaron Hickey, 3 teams looking at him. We have Saudi Arabian interest in Keane Lewis-Potter, as well as Brighton. We have Saudi Arabian interest in Fabio Carvalho, as well as Brighton. We have Friendrup interesting Saudi Arabian teams. We have Matazzo, not Saudi Arabian teams, just sort of championship teams for him. I'm going to hold my hands up on him, I think. I loved his stats when we pulled the stats through and had a look at his profile. I've maybe not given him enough game time, but when we have, he hasn't been amazing either. He's played 10 minutes this year, so this we can't even think about. He might be one that we might have to cut our losses on. I don't think we're going to get back to £8 million worth even on him. His value right now is 2 million to 4.7 million pounds. I'm trying to send him out on loans to try and give him game time so that his value goes back up, but that might be one we lose a bit of money on, but that's going to happen. We go, especially when you buy players that are really cheap. Some of them are going to go like Dantas did and like Makawa did, who's now amazing. Some of them are going to go a little bit more like Matazzo, and I'm going to hold my hands up on that one. We've also got Huerta wants to leave because he's not played enough games, so he might be one that we look for a potential transfer for. If we could get, we signed him for £10 million. He's now valued at £24 million. I might need to it might be a slight cut your losses situation, or it might be a situation where we look to try and bring in a little bit of revenue by selling players on for a profit. Visser as well also wants to leave. He's not played as many games this year. Brian Mbuemo's played 24. He's just out on international duty at the moment. Miles Lewis-Skelly brought in the summers, played 3 games. I think that's fine. I'm not going to try and push him into the team because he is very young still. Only, is he 18 or 19? I think he's 19 now. He's now 20 actually, so he has had a birthday, so we might need to try and bring him in. But Saforza and Gravenberch and Frendrup, mainly Gravenberch and Svendrup, it's mainly been like this, our midfield, so far this year. The two of them have got a good relationship already. Look, it's been a bit more like this, and also Carvalho in here. Salazar's been good, or Zalazar, I should say. 4 goals from him. He's had good. He's been pretty good in that midfield. Mikey Moore's played 9 games. Quaresma does usually start in the defence rather than rather than Murillo. Murillo's going to have to play left back in the next game because we don't have another left back, but you can do that, which is useful. You can see the other stats on our players there, look, in terms of how many minutes. Tyler Dibbling has really struggled. I might need to look for a loan for him in this January as well. But that's sort of the situation. In the cups, we are, if I go to the competitions page here, in fact, we've been knocked out of the Friendly Cup, but ignore that. In the Champions League, we are in the group of teams that go through to the playoff rounds. Played 6, won 3, lost 3. Lost to Midtjylland that I showed you, lost to Napoli, lost to Stuttgart, but did beat Real Madrid, and beat Fiorentina 5-1. We are a strange football team, aren't we? But we should be okay, I think, to go through. Maybe not in this top elite group, which skips the next round, where Arsenal are topping it, but maybe in the group down below, which is, I think, absolutely fine. Still in the FA Cup because it is, I think, the 3rd round that has not yet been played. We've got Luton away. Carabao Cup, we got knocked out by Newcastle in the 4th round, which the board weren't too upset with. It was, where was it? I'll show you on here. I think I showed you it before. We lost 2-1 to them. We beat, in the 1st round, we beat Rotherham. Then we lost to Newcastle in the round after that, where they've got a really good team. They've got loads of money to spend, haven't they? So it's one of those that you can't really complain about. With the situation as it is in the league, the aim remains to finish in those Champions League spots. The aim remains to try and go through in the Champions League, to still try and build on our reputation as a club. I was wondering if we could see the rep on here. Our reputation is still only national, even though we're playing in the Champions League. So after a campaign of Champions League, and if we qualify for it again, I'm hoping this goes to Continental, and that, I think, opens up a lot of more options in terms of players that are interested in signing for us. Players that are at elite clubs that maybe aren't getting the minutes, a bit like Ryan Gravenberch, might then be more interested in coming into play for us, which is sort of what I'm hoping on. I was hoping that the rep would go up this year, but it hasn't, so we wait until next year. By the way, Morten Frendrup is now the new captain as well, and he's our key player. This has been a big success. You have a look at, if we compare him to other defensive midfielders here, look, big success of a signing. He's got those progressive passes in there. £15 million he cost us, is wanted by loads of Saudi teams. So if we get a bid of 60 million, he might go, but I'm hoping we hold on to him, to be honest. I'm going to go and do that January window now. I'm going to go and build from here, see if we can do any business. The balance is at over £200 million still. See if we can use some of this £247 million budget, and also see which players we can hold on to, because as I said, a lot of interest, and mainly from Saudi teams who are very good at buying our players. I'll see you at the end of Jan. All right, so that window has been, I wasn't expecting this. Basically, this is what's happened. We have, in January, sold our goalkeeper. Daya Makawa, on the 3rd of January, I got a bid of £19 million. I think I actually got a bid beforehand from another team, and then offered him out and got £19 million for Daya Makawa. Daya Makawa was our Japanese goalkeeper that was a revelation. I love him. He's fantastic. If you go to his goalkeeping, I can't actually show you here because he's gone to play in Saudi Arabia. They are incessant. They don't stop. They love our players so much that I've sold another one for silly money. I mean, we've moneyballed it, haven't we? We've signed him for 165k. We've sold him for 19 million pounds. It's a 31-year-old goalkeeper, 32-year-old goalkeeper that we've now made about 18 point something million pounds on. It's business that you can't say no to doing, but I am also gutted because he was so good for us. His actual stats and his average ratings, especially this first season, 17 games, half a season, 7.27 average rating, 8 clean sheets in there, 3 player of the matches. He got a player of the match in his first game and got an 8.1 or something. I feel like we've managed to find an amazing goalkeeper that I told you to go and sign in your saves. Loads of people in the comments said I sign him every single time. Loads of you like, I've signed him before. I had no idea he existed until we found him, or one of our scouts found him, and then we looked at some of his data. It's really sad. I'm actually sad about losing him. However, it was one that I couldn't say no to. Part of this rationale that I'm going with, which is if I feel like I get bids that are above the value, I'm going to sell players and I'm going to say yes to them. So he went out to Al Duhail on the 3rd, and then I had to go start looking for a goalkeeper. Luckily, we had already been scouting and following on my goalkeeper shortlist Nicholas Heddle for a while, who is pretty well known as a goalkeeper and already comes in. And I don't know why I've got not available for the goalkeeping ones, but I've never been able to see it on here. I can find the stats, I just can't see it on the profile screen, which I don't really know why. You can see kind of generally how good a goalkeeper is just by their average rating and goals conceded, but obviously that's going to be different for depending on which team you're in. So there are all of those things too. But goalkeeping wise, we've kind of been fine so far, and I'm pretty confident that Nicholas Heddle is going to be quite good too, because he's well known and it's a goalkeeper that I know. So I kind of had to go and find somebody and quite quickly bring them in, especially trying to find one that was of a good value. And because he's playing for Rapid Vienna, he was going to only ever be cheap. He's come in and done well in his first 2 games as well. We didn't get him until, what date was it that I signed him? It was a little bit afterwards. We had to wait for a work permit as well, the 15th. So it's one of those where I kind of had to bide my time. Luckily, Ellery Balcom was very good in the games that he ended up playing for us. So fair play to this guy we're keeping around the club because he's homegrown. He's 27 now, but when he has played, he's been quite good. 2 games this season and was solid. But yeah, he's actually an okay keeper as a backup goalkeeper anyway, which is good. It's him and Hakon Valdemarsson are the 2 that kind of interchange. I think I've listed him. I'm trying to sell Valdemarsson because he's not homegrown, whereas Balcom is, and Balcom's seems to me, I don't really know what his attributes look like, but seemed to me like he's a pretty good goalkeeper anyway. So I'm happy with that. So yeah, goalkeeper fiascos and chaos going on. And then not only were Saudi Arabian teams coming in to buy our goalkeeper, they bid 50 million pounds for Fabio Carvalho, which he then decided he was like, he will be upset if I don't accept the bid or whatever the message is that you get. He really wanted to go there because of the wages that they could offer him. They've put him on £525,000 per week. Another player that goes to play for Al Ahly. If we go to their team, I mean, it's made up of our players. It's Ivan Toney. It's Nathan Collins. If you go to the tactics on here, it's Kevin Sharder. It's, I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. They've even got down here, look, Damsgaard and John Stones, who I'm not even sure that they're not even in the squad for this most recent game here. So I think you can only play a certain number of non-Saudi players in their squads, but either way they keep signing our players. So Fabio Carvalho is the latest to make the move from Brentford to Saudi Arabia. 50 million pounds. It keeps this churn of money that we've got coming in, and it allowed me to speculate a little bit, as well as after loaning Matato, which we talked about before, and also selling Johan Visser. Again, I mentioned that he was unhappy, he wanted to leave. We didn't give him basically any game time this year, so it's one of those where I was kind of actively looking for a team to send him to. We got a £13 million bid from Leicester. He is 30, so I think that's probably just about as high as we could get for him, and I'm pretty okay with it in the end. It's also money off the wage bill, etc., and he's happy to go. So we've brought in, just in this January alone, it's about, I mean, what is that, 90 odd million pounds, just over. So it's almost 100 million pounds coming in just from selling 3 players. It allowed me to go and spend. After buying Heddle, I went and bought an Ethan Nwaneri, who was happy to come to us. If we have a look at how he's done in the first 2 games for us as an attacking midfielder, he's one that it's a bit like the Lewis Skelly signing, not just because we've signed him from Arsenal, because we know he's really good, because we know he's highly rated. We don't have loads of data to work off because he hasn't played lots for Arsenal, but £37 million. I'm taking an educated guess that he's going to be really good, and an educated guess that's sort of already paying off, because look at his value already since he's come in. It's now £94 million. He's only 19. It's Moneyball, but in a slightly different way of moneyballing it. He doesn't need to be registered. He's homegrown in nation. He is going to be hopefully really good for us. Highly rated player. I'm going to use some of the money that we got from Carvalho. Well, look, we've sold Carvalho and made a profit, even though we brought in Nwaneri, who's younger and I think eventually could be better. Fingers crossed he's better anyway. So it's been a bit of a topsy-turvy window. It's been a bit of a topsy-turvy January on the pitch as well. We started great, look, after beating United, which I think was after this Spurs game that I was last talking to you. We beat United, drew to West Ham, beat Luton in the FA Cup, beat Bournemouth 3-0. 2 for Keane Lewis Potter in that one, says Arjueta. We then lost to Villa. We lost again in the Champions League. We need to be careful that we do actually qualify for the next round. I'm glad that we've now beaten Feyenoord after that, because we are kind of right on the... Well, in terms of points, look, we're right on the cusp. If we hadn't beaten Feyenoord, we would be struggling a little bit, but we're right in the middle of this second group that should go through now. So I'm feeling better about it. And then most recent game, this is where I'm feeling good about the signing of Nwaneri. He scored twice against Leicester in a 2-0 win. I'm going to show you those goals. We haven't seen a lot of on-pitch action. I'm going to make sure actually in today's video I do at least one live com so that you can see the players in action too. But let's see the goals from Ethan Nwaneri. It wasn't his debut. I think he played a game before this. I think he's played 2 for us, right? But in his second game, he's helped himself to 2 goals as well. So fingers crossed this is a sign of things to come, and we're going to get a real future superstar. Him and Lewis Skelly in the midfield, homegrown. You add him to Mikey Moore, maybe eventually. It's a lovely first goal with his right foot. He played off the right wing, I think it was in this game. Left-footed, inside forward from that side. Here's Salazar giving it to Henry. Henry's back, by the way, from his ligament injury, which is out. He was out for months and months. Nice finish for the second goal there. I'm kind of building what I'm hoping is going to be the next generation with Nwaneri, with Mikey Moore, with Lewis Skelly, with 1 or 2 others, Lewis Potter, Gravenberch is only 24 himself. If we're going to go and challenge the teams above us, like Arsenal and Liverpool, these players, if they become elite players, maybe allow us to do that. And it's Moneyball in a different way. So give them game time now. Hope they develop. Hope they do as well as like Friendrup has done when he's played for us this season, because he might be my favourite player that we've got at the moment. The captain, 25, still a whole career ahead of him as well. I'm hoping we continue from here. We have dropped after those results to 5th, but only a point off 4th, 3 points off 3rd as well. A game in hand for Man United who could go. They'd still be behind us though. So we are well and truly in this group. And remember, 5th might be enough for Champions League football, which it was last season, because we finished 5th and we are in the Champions League this year. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before, but in the end last season, I think it was Liverpool went and won the... no, maybe it's because Spurs, whatever it was, whoever won one of the cups allowed us to then qualify for the Champions League. So we are, I don't know if I did say that at the end of the last video, and I should have maybe mentioned it before, but we are a Champions League club, as you've seen by some of the games that we've played. We continue from here. We try and build on this. We've got, how many games left now? We've played 24. We've got 14 to go, with the aim being, can we finish 4th? That's just the aim, isn't it? Can Omega score a few more goals? He's got 12. Can Keane Lewis Potter still keep going as good as he's going? Can our new players, like Nwaneri, continue to do as well as he's done in his first couple of games? We've got an injury for Saforza at the moment, but it's only a pulled hamstring. Gravenberch is out as well for a while. He tore his thigh, so he's been out for a little bit of time. He's got 2 to 6 weeks left on that one. That is all the business. Well, that's all the business that we've done. Still, Al Ittihad looking at Murillo, Al Ittihad looking at Quaresma. Zalazar's wanted by Al Nassr. It's all Saudi clubs just trying to sign all of our players. I don't know quite what's happened in this save for this to be as prominent as it is, but as I said before, there's not a lot I can do about it. I just try and hold on to players unless we get a massive bid. I'm not actively encouraging the bids, because I think it's getting a little bit silly. But at the same time, if they do bid and it's a lot, I'm going to probably have to say yes, because otherwise they become unhappy and it sort of derails us anyway. They immediately want to go because of the wages that are on offer. So we'll see. Maybe that bubble will burst and hopefully it stops at some point. But for now, we're just going to cope with it. We're going to deal with it. It's part of the save. It's part of this weird world that we're living in right now. I'm going to see you at the end of season number 3, and fingers crossed we've qualified for the Champions League. And by the way, also still no Victor Gyökeres. He's still at Sporting, so that fight goes on. See you in May. So here we go, another season in the books. It's May 2026, and we have finished We did it. We finished fourth. We actually did it. I know that it doesn't actually change all that much because we were in the Champions League anyway, weren't we? But we've actually broke into the top 4 of the Premier League. We've actually got the same points total. It's 68 points for the second season in a row. But we're a top 4 Premier League team, and it's all because of our Moneyball approach. We've wheeled and we've dealed, and even though we've only really signed a very mundane, run-of-the-mill 4-2-3-1 system, we've built ourselves into a real force in Premier League football, and hopefully it continues to go from strength to strength from here. Let me show you and let me break down to you how the season has gone as a whole on the screen. I think let's start with the players first of all before I show you some of the results, how we've got on in the Champions League, etc, etc. Newsflash, I would have led with it if we had, but we haven't won the Champions League. We did get knocked out, of course, but let's have a look at the player stats to start with, because it is a data driven save. It's data driven in the way that we look at recruitment, but also by which players we might think about replacing. Goalkeeper wise, we did replace our goalkeeper in January. Nicholas Heddle has come in and he's been so good, honestly. I thought Makawa was great, but if you look at the average rating for Nicholas Heddle here, I still can't see, if I go on here for some reason, the goalkeeper stats. I don't know why this is. If someone who uses this skin, if you could let me know, that'd be really useful, because I would like to see a breakdown. Apparently it's supposed to change all this. Maybe this is just something that I'm doing wrong. Maybe the pizza shows it instead. Oh, no, it's still, oh, it does actually. Hang on a minute. Maybe that's why. On here, it doesn't show clean sheets, but on the pizza one, or the pasty one perhaps as well, it does show clean sheets and saves and everything else on here too. So you can see how he's performing. He's actually quite low percentile in terms of saves, but I take everything with a slight pinch of salt. When you think about passes and actually how he's going to be, being part of the system, on the ball is what we're looking at here. Expected goals prevented, that's not particularly high on that one. So maybe he needs to improve on that a bit, but on the ball, he seems to be a revelation, and his average rating seems really good as well. So this is the first time I'm seeing this, as I've only just figured this out, so maybe that's something I need to look at going forwards. But he's been really good as far as I can see. The eye test has shown me that he's been really good as well. In games he looks solid. Last 5 games 7.38 average rating, so all good there. Right back at the moment, it's Aaron Hickey. He's played 37 games, lots of them as a left back. Right back wise, we've got a slight issue in that Mads Rorslev has been injured. He's been mainly the first choice though. He's not injured right at this second. He's played 41 games. He's mainly the first choice. Not wanted at the moment, but he was wanted by a few clubs before that. Bade and Murillo, or Bade and Quaresma, or Quaresma and Murillo are our main centre-backs that have been rotating. 8 games for Wu as well. Lots off the bench too. So he's also, considering we signed him as a real Moneyball signing, he's been solid for £3.3 million for 3 seasons now. He's played the most games he's played in a season too. So still, I'm counting him as a win, as a bit of recruitment as well. Rico Henry is back as the first choice left back, but of course Aaron Hickey played a lot of games there too. Murillo played some games as a left back as well, lots of times. 43 games for Murillo. Definitely continuing to improve as a, which one is it? Centre backs is this one, isn't it? Continuing to improve as a player in our squad too. He was also attracting a little bit of interest from other teams as well. His value is at £25 million. I think we signed him for 22, so he's about where his value is. But just to show you some of his stats there as well. That's the defence, as well as some other ones that I didn't mention, but I think that's pretty much it. Into the midfield, the first choice 2 that I showed you before, Gravenberch and Frendrup. Gravenberch has been so good this year. Look at the average rating, 7.06. I mean, the two of them, the pair of them together, they are so good as a duo. Gravenberch as the player that gets on the ball and creates things. Frendrup as the one who goes in there and is just a terrier, winning the ball back. He's not the biggest, but he does win the ball back. The way he wins that ball back has been really, really impressive. I'll show you on here. Look, possession 1. It's actually not as high as I thought, but tackles 1 is right up there. Possession lost is, it maybe as not quite as good on here as I thought it was, but in the game, this is what I'm seeing. Progressive passes, though, really, really good from this midfield. From a ball-winning point of view, if you have a look at some of his attributes as well, it doesn't quite show it, but defending ones, decisions really good, marking really good. I think his tackling must be quite good as well, because, as I say, I do see him winning the ball back. Maybe the eye test is slightly different to the data there, but I see him winning the ball back, and it works anyway because his average ratings are great, playing this ball winning midfielder role. Zalazar in front has been good. 14 goals from him. I actually had on here. Can I bring it back again? It just doesn't show them. It's just, if I go across, it shows you the other ones too, but he's got some assists in that. Well, let me highlight him. He's got some assists as well on there too. He's got 9 assists as well as his 14 goals from attacking midfield, replacing Fabio Carvalho. The outgoing Fabio Carvalho has been good too. If I show you his data, attacking midfield wise, great for expected assists and non-penalty goals. Not loads in terms of the progressive passes, which is why I bought him, because he was doing loads of these, the key passes and progressive passes. But he's doing the job. He's doing the business either way. His value's up at 42. Let's call it 40 million pounds. Brought him in for 12 million pounds. Again, another one that is going in the right direction, isn't it? Lewis Potter, revelation, love him. 13 goals and how many assists? And 10 assists, 23 goal contributions in 44 games. Look at him compared to other strikers or other wingers. We look at both of them. He's our Moneyball boy. Brian Mbuemo scored 11. And Victor Omega up front, it's a respectable season from him. 22 goals in 40 games. If I show you his overall, it was 13 goals in 30 appearances. It's respectable, but it's not prolific, and that's kind of what he was the season before. So I'm thinking, if we need to go to the next level, if we're going to be playing Champions League again, if we want to challenge for the title eventually, which I guess has to be the aim, if we're in the Champions League finishing 4th, I'm going to do at least one more video, which is at least 2 more seasons. Can we build on this point to go and become title winners, title challengers at some point? Do we need to improve on Emmanuel Omega? It feels a bit harsh after the season he just had, but we've always had a plan for this save, haven't we? We've had a target up front. We've had somebody that could come in and hopefully guarantee us goals. And I need to tell you, I need to let on to something right now. I've done some business. Can you guess who I've signed to come in and be a striker in this team? It's Victor Gyökeres. We have actually, eventually, this is the reason it happened, as I show you, we did become a continental reputation team before the end of the season. And as soon as that happened, I went to our shortlist. I went to here and I tried to see if Gyökeres was interested in joining us. He was. So I've done something. I don't think lots of you are going to like this, but let me justify it to you. I know that signing a player who is £60 million, who is wanted by loads of teams, who isn't particularly young at 28, it doesn't seem like Moneyball, does it? But I'm going to justify that by saying, we've raised all of these funds and they are just sitting there. And I think he takes us to the next level. And I think genuinely, even though he cost us £60 million, I think his value is going to go way above that as soon as we sign him. So let me have this one. I'm just going to make an appeal to all of you watching. Let me have this one. If it was 30, as the plan was, which is where his value was at before, then I think we can get away with it. It is 60, but I think everything we've done before can hopefully justify this. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. But welcome to Brentford, Victor Gyökeres. He joins in the summer, straight off the back of a season where he's done very well with Sporting. He's got 12 goals there, got 15, got 16, signed for 17. They've moneyballed it, absolutely, haven't they? I couldn't resist. I had to do it. It was such a big part of the narrative of this save that Victor Gyökeres is going to come in and be a striker for us. If I compare him to the other strikers, his data does look average. I'm not going to lie to you. But I think I get 6. He's going to score goals. The scout reports make it look a lot better. He's an A+ look. And actually, on this skin, it does show you a lot of the data in his scout reports. And it ranks them in the league as well. So he's the 4th best expected goals. He's got the 4th best shots on target, 5th in these things. And these are all listed as cons as well. I think, I mean, you can paint a picture that it's worth it. The proof will be in the pudding. If he comes in and scores us loads of goals and he takes us to challenging for the title eventually, then it will be worth £60 million. If it's not, I've got this one wrong. I hold my hands up. I'll go and sell somebody for a load of profit and make up for it. I promise. But welcome to Brentford, Victor Gyökeres. He comes in and that's, I mean, we just looked at Omega. That's kind of where the squad is at right now and how the squad has done here as we finished 4th. You can see some of the subs here and the data that goes with those guys. Lots of games for Aaron Hickey, for Murillo. Plenty of games for Sforza too as a backup midfielder. He's actually upset because they fined him after he got sent off against Arsenal. Could have played a lot more games, but did play. I mean, in total, that's like 45 games that he actually played for us. 29 games played in the league, 11 starts in the league. So it's a respectable season, but didn't play loads. I want to get more game time into Mikey Moore as well. I want to get more game time into Ethan Nwaneri. Did start 14, but didn't hold down a starter place just yet. I'm just hoping that he's developing and becoming a better player. We can't see his attributes, but you imagine that he's now 20, that he's growing as a player and his attributes are actually getting higher as well. So at that point, we can bring him in to do a few more starts. That sums up the players' performances, and I think you can see where we're going from this. Gyökeres comes in, and then it will basically be a decision of which players get sold. There is still lots of Saudi Arabian interest in players, lots of Premier League interest in Keane Lewis Potter as well. Looking some other teams in for, like Frendrup's wanted by, no, it was Baday's wanted by Wolves, for example, too. If we end up selling people, it might tell us who we need to bring in. Otherwise, I'll go and have a big deep dive into the data hub and see what I think this squad needs. Remember, I talked about we needed to improve the defense. I think we've done that with Quaresma and Bade in there. I wonder if a right back is where we could improve next. I'm looking at some of the role abilities and things in here. I'm looking at that we don't really have great backup right back. We've got Vinicius Tobias, but maybe somebody else in there. I'm sort of thinking out loud on this one. I'm continuing to scout across everybody as well. Lots of these players are the same players, but I am adding to the list, like attacking centre mids. I think there's a few more. Was it on this one, defensive ones? There's a few more on here that I'm looking at different players. Look, that I've made my watching closely list, like Chris Rigg, who was another one a bit like Nwaneri and a bit like Lewis Skelly, that if he develops would be great. The scouts didn't love him as much. He signed a new contract, which is I think why the scouts don't like him as much, because he was a bit more expensive. Either way, at one point he looked like he could be cheap, and then he signed a new contract. Just know I'm doing all of the scouting and watching of the players. Let me show you the results for the rest of the season then, from January or February onwards, we should say. Lost to Fulham. Here we go. We did qualify for the Champions League. If I go back to this league stage, I can show you that. In the league phase, we finished 17th, qualifying for the playoffs. In the knockout playoff round, we came up against Atletico Madrid and beat them 3-0 on the second leg. We beat them 6-2 on aggregate. It was outrageous, really. This was the second leg here, a 3-0 win away from home, which again, it sort of proved to me that we can mix it with the big boys. On our day, we could beat anybody. Seriously, there's the team that was played. Balkan played in goal in this game. I think it was an injury for Hedel at this stage. Rorslev, Quaresma, Rio, Hickey. Nwaneri played deeper in midfield. Got subbed in the end, but look how good he played. 8 out of 10. Saforza, Lewis Potter, Salazar, Huerta, and Omega up front. Huerta scored 2 goals late on to win it. We already had a pretty good lead in this before this as well. I think we were 3-2 up from the first leg. Ended up 6-2 winners against Atletico Madrid. Took us through to the round of 16 where we beat Marseille 3-1 on aggregate. I'll show you this scout report I'll show you the match report on this one as well, because I think it's interesting to follow our Champions League journey, because we're Brentford and being in the Champions League, there's a little bit of a novelty still at this stage, although we are going to be in it again next year, which is always very good. We were dominated in terms of stats here, but we did get the win, and we'd already, I think we drew to them in the first leg, or beaten them in the first leg by a goal to nil, I think it was. So either way, we did our job. We did enough. Mbuemo and Omega in this game. Gravenberch played further forward in this game. Look, you see the 11 here. Otherwise, it's almost the same. Hedel was back. Mikey Moore led the line, didn't play great and got replaced in the end. Omega came on and scored the goal in that one. Through in the Champions League to the quarterfinals, which is where it sort of came to an end. We were beaten by Arsenal. Arsenal are amazing. I think, did Arsenal win the league this year? I feel like they did. It was Liverpool. Liverpool won the league this year, but Arsenal was second. Arsenal have a very good team. They beat us 2-1 in this one, 5-1 on aggregate. They kind of just swept us aside. That was the end of our Champions League journey, but I'm happy and proud to have got to the Champions League quarter-final. Look how many English teams are in there, by the way. Us and Arsenal, Liverpool and Manchester City, Spurs. So that's 5 teams in the quarter. 5 out of 8 teams were from England, which goes to show just how strong the Premier League is at this stage and what we're up against when it comes to trying to finish in the top 4. It's not going to be easy to try and turn this into challenging for the title. Arsenal have actually got themselves to the final where they've got Real Madrid. Real Madrid are looking for a 4th consecutive Champions League win, which is going to be quite difficult to beat them if we ever get ourselves to that stage too. But yeah, there you can kind of see the results. Don't need to go into them in too much detail. You can see the goal scorers too. You see that we went out of the Champions League here against Arsenal. We went out of the FA Cup here to Liverpool in extra time in that one as well, which sucks a little bit. Ross Reed, who is a new gen, got the winning goal in that one. Beat Man City 5-3 here, which is always a good result. Lost to Chelsea 7-2. Don't know what happened. They did add 2 goals really late on, but we got dominated by Chelsea. But like, we just had a really bad day. I have nothing to say. I don't know why it happened. We lost 7-2 and then won the next game 4-0 against Newcastle. So I don't really have any explanations. But after losing 7-2, we won 4 games on the bounce against good teams. Beat Spurs, beat Manchester United to eventually finish here in the Champions League spots with 68 points. I think we got 68 points last season as well, didn't we? We did, and finished 5th that year. First season we got 69 points and finished in 6th. We've actually got less points than we did in season number 1, but we have finished in the Champions League spot. So we're kind of doing the same, but still growing as a club, and I think getting better players in, because if you imagine too, these teams around us are also getting better. West Ham 5th, look. Palace, who were doing so well, ended up finishing 12th. Relegated teams, Burnley, Leeds and Sunderland. I might have a look at a few of these teams to see if there's any players, but because they've all been in the Championship recently, they don't have quite as strong squads. Chris Rigg might be one to look at from Sunderland though for the summer. But that is our 3rd season. We are a Champions League team confirmed at this stage. 2 seasons on the bounce. We are now also a continental reputation team. That means that we can go and have a look at a slightly better caliber of player. I'm going to continue to do all of my scouting. I've got so many recruitment focuses on the go, look, of players that I'm looking for. Some of them to point out, I'm looking for players that could be 4 stars. Scalvini and Scott. Scott, I think, is linked with City, keep bidding for him. It's Chelsea at the moment. Chelsea and City going for him. I would love to get involved, but at this price, I just don't think I can. Christian Medina is one that I might look at as well, but I just don't think we need a midfielder, but he could be a Moneyball signing because he looks really good coming in from Boca Juniors. We've got Sforza already, who's very similar, so I just don't think it's going to happen. Looking at 3.5 star players, these are them on here. English players, average ratings, key passes per 90. I told you that I found, I think it was Gravenberch that I found by this one, the key passes, and then also just, yeah, you can see them on the screen here. A homegrown in nation under 21s. This is where I found players, or I say found, but this is where I'm, players like Nwaneri and Lewis Skelly are coming up, and I'm making the move to go and sign them. Kobe Mainu, by the way, only 28 to 40 million pounds. It's one that I am kind of tempted by. So maybe in the summer we go and sign him. Hasn't played, he actually played loads. Hasn't maybe developed in a way that he's the world beater that he could become in real life, because at this price point, and he's 22, but could be a fun one to bring in, couldn't he? I will continue to keep looking. The scouting never ends in this save, but the big one is that we've signed Gyökeres to come in this summer as well. The squad, I'm hoping, can go again. The plan after this has to be, can we go and challenge for a title? Or are we still a little bit behind that? I don't know. Maybe a couple more signings are needed. See what I can do. Let's go and do a transfer window for season number 4. Come on. And here we are then, ready to head in to season 4 at the club. It's been a lovely rise so far, hasn't it, in this save? We've gone from, as I've said before, £38 million as our budget at the beginning. We did actually peak towards the end of last season. We were up to £285 million after a few sales. Then we brought in Victor Gyökeres. So we have dropped back down to £218 million in the bank. Overall, though, over the past few seasons, it's been a lovely steady rise in terms of the bankroll, as well as, hopefully, as I did promise earlier, this transfer debt is on its way down. It's down to £69 million. I'm hoping that hopefully by the end of today's video, but definitely over the course of the entire save, I want to bring this down again so that we don't have any transfer debt and all of the money that we have sort of is ours from there. That said, this is where it is because I have been doing a little bit of transfer business. Again, it's the 7th of August. We are just about ready to head into our 4th season at the club. It has been a 6th place finish, a 5th place finish, and now most recently a 4th place finish with Brentford. So logically, we need to finish at least 3rd in this next season. So let's see if we can do that. We've had a good pre-season. Victor Gyökeres has just scored a hat-trick in the final pre-season game. He is now officially a Brentford player. Here he is. If we show you his profile, you can see his pros and cons on here. You can see, I mean, there's lots of extra details that we've not really looked at actually on here, have we? If you go to the attributes screen, it does show you them all here, look. Obviously, not actually showing you the numbers. It will show you all the stats and things on there too, but he hasn't played any games for us, which is why you can't see too much about him. His value all the way up at 90 odd million, which is what we were talking about a little bit before information wise. It is all on here just to show you what's on the skin as well. Let me know, by the way, in the comments down below if you are running your own Moneyball save. Really interested to see just how many of you are actually having a go at this. Let me know who you've been playing with and how it's been going. Maybe, here's an idea that I've just had. You guys share with me your Moneyball saves, and we do a video where I do a little form for you to submit your best Moneyball saves, and we can have a look at things about how you've been wheeling and dealing. Have a look at this tab here about how we've built up a balance. Hopefully you've done even better than I have. Let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in, and maybe I can get that Google form set up, because just had the idea for a video whilst recording another one. That's always fun, isn't it? Either way, as I mentioned, we have been busy in the transfer window. Actually, that's a lie. We've done some transfer business, and that is, as you can see on the screen here, we have spent 4.2 million. It's been quiet this season. I was having a look and really doing all of my scouting and everything, and there's just wasn't really any standout players that I thought would take us to the next level. Instead, I've brought in 2 players, as well as at the end of the window, obviously, as you know about, Victor Gyökeres coming in. Also, because we'd already spent 60 million on a striker, I wasn't about to go and spend loads of money. Our transfer budget is at 256 million, but I'm not going to go and spend that. Instead, I have been working on things like the facilities. We are up to exceptional youth coaching, junior coaching, above average youth recruitment. We've got great training facilities, great youth facilities, and the corporate facilities on there. I might actually go and check again now. That is actually a lot better than it started with. So just know a lot of this money that I'm making, I am trying to put back into the club as well. Let's just see that. Well, there you go. Look, that's what's been done. The youth facilities are currently under works, as well as the training facilities. And you can see some past ones here that have been done. The youth recruitment, the youth facilities. Let's just see if there's anything on here that I can increase. I don't think there is at the moment, because we're waiting for this work to be done. So money is going back into the club that way. And I decided to be a little bit sensible after maybe not being very Moneyball and not very sensible with the Gyökeres signing, and just signing 2 people to fill some gaps in the squad. There's not a lot of data to look at on either of these, but let me tell you why I've brought them by going first over to the players that have been sold. I have once again been enforced. I've been enforced to sell players to Saudi. I can't do anything about it. I want it to stop, sort of, but also I still quite like it as well. The only teams that really are coming in for our players are the Saudi teams, at least with any meaningful bids that make my players want to leave. So Mads Roerslev, who some would argue has been here maybe longer than he should have been, because he's okay, but I wouldn't say he's amazing, has actually played a lot of games for us in this save. If you go back, we started here, so 37, 38, 32 games in those 3 seasons without ever being amazing. First season was actually his best one with these 8 assists that he recorded. We've got 24 million for him from Al Nassr. He's going to go and play for Cristiano Ronaldo's team, who I'm assuming by this stage has retired. 24 million though, couldn't really say no to it. It's one of these Saudi, I don't want to even talk about it too much anymore. It's just Saudi teams buying our players. This one is an interesting one. The first signing that I did make in this save was Ezequiel Ceballos. I said that I think we can maybe get a little bit of money for him. It didn't really go to plan. However, we did actually turn a profit. If you add the 850k onto this 6 million, or onto this 10 million here, about 11 million back from a player that we signed for 6 million that played not very many games for us. None in this season. I think he did play games for us, but it doesn't record it on here because this is just from that particular season. He was on loan for most of the seasons. I think there was a spell when he was here. Either way, maybe he didn't. Maybe he played no games and we've made at least a £4 million profit on him, which it's one of those. Sometimes it won't work out as well as I want it to. This is one of those times. I think he is, I still think, a good player. I wonder what his attributes actually look like. He's clearly very quick look. However, we've sold him on for £10 million. I think it's just 10 million. It might even rise to slightly higher than that, I want to say. And then finally, this was a very Moneyball signing that we made. Cesar Huerta, who lots of people will let me know in the comments of the last video. This was the guy that was linked to Liverpool in the summer, which I remember that link. I just didn't put I didn't put the name to him, and I didn't realize when I was signing him in the game that was him. I remember it was something to do with maybe like a Sunderland loan that then fell through, which meant the whole deal fell through. I had no idea it was Cesar Huerta, so that's quite fun that we've ended up signing him and then selling him on to a Saudi team, Al Ahly, for 24 million or 21 million. So we've doubled our money on him after he actually was quite useful for us. Never really excelled, but 5 goals, 3 assists last season from only 9 starts as well. He's a good player, just not maybe going to be a starter if my plan for the squad actually comes to fruition, which is these young players. I need to give them game times so that they become Moneyball signings, because then their value is going to rocket, and actually hopefully even more so than thinking about their value, they will actually take us to the next level by becoming elite talents. That's the plan. Cesar Huerta doesn't really fit with that, so I've sold him on for the profit, which will allow us to reinvest this 21 million on the 10 or 11 million pound profit that we've made on him. So 58 million pounds in through the door, 4.2 million pounds spent on top of this 60 million pounds spent. We are still turning a profit we're almost turning a profit, not quite. Also, Trent Cone-Doherty went as well. Didn't actually end up looking as good as I was hoping he would, and he's 21, so I didn't think he was going to get much better. And again, we did almost double our money on him. It's a small profit, but profits are profits nonetheless on him. And then also this one, he's not homegrown in nation, which meant it's very annoying to try and bring him into the squad. So I've sold him for 2 million, which it's not very much, but I think it's the most that I could get for him for a goalkeeper. So Balcom is going to be the backup goalkeeper this year instead, and then we'll use youth players if we need to. That's the business. That means, all things considered, that the squad looks a little bit like this heading into our first game of the 4th season. Our goalkeeper is Nicholas Heddle, with, as I say, Balcom as the backup goalkeeper. Actually, not picked the subs on here yet. He is the backup goalkeeper. We are going to go with Vinicius Tobias as our first choice right back. I'm going to put a bit of trust in the fact that I think this guy can do the business for us. He's only 23. With games should improve as well. It's him, and then I didn't even show you the other guy, did I? Didn't even show you the signings. And then as a rotation option, a youngster in Martin Fernandez. The scouts gave me a lovely scout report on this guy. He's very young. He is only 21, and he was only £4 million, I think it was. £4.2 million. So we're going to bring him in, and hopefully he can improve. There's his scout report, look, to become a really good player that will have a high value and will be a useful asset for us. But at the moment, I think he's going to have to be a backup. And then finally, I'll just show you whilst we're on here too. I did, just to beef out the squad a bit, because we were lacking in numbers after all the sales. I did bring in Gaetano Castrovilli, who I think is just going to be a solid option. He's not on big wages, and he was on a free transfer. So I don't think I've promised him all that much game time. Impact sub look. So he's happy to just be a squad member that barely plays. But if we need him, he's good experience and utilizing that free transfer market a little bit. So that's where that is. Going back to the squad, it looks like this. Tobias on the right, Bade and Murillo as first choice centre-backs. That can easily rotate with, say, Quaresma in there. But Murillo was great last year, so I'm happy to go with him because he's left-footed as well. Christopher Wu will be the other backup centre-back. Rico Henry is the first choice left-back, and then Aaron Hickey as the other left-back. Frendrup and Gravenberch are our first choice central midfielders, with Juan Saforza to come in if we need him to. He's also excellent. We've also got Castrovilli if we need them to. Let's put Gravenberch back in there, although he's carrying an injury actually, so should be back for Arsenal tomorrow. Brian Mbuemo on the right, Keane Lewis Potter on the left, Ethan Nwaneri on in the middle. Just to say, in central midfield too, Lewis Skelly is another option to play instead of one of these two when we need him to. Mikey Moore is a winger option. Zalazar is a central attacking midfield option. Matazzo back in the midfield too, but I don't think he'll play too much. And that's kind of it there. Yarmolenko as well. Yarmolenko, I should say, might get some game time this year. We will see with him too. And then up front, we've got Victor Gyökeres and Emmanuel Omega as our two options. Of course, a few of these guys can play up front. And Mbuemo, for example, can play as a striker too if we need them to. That's the squad. I'm confident, actually. I think this is the best the squad has looked. In terms of how well-rounded it is, perhaps. And also, the idea that players like Ethan Nwaneri, I'm hoping, you can see it on here, look, this is his potential and things on here. Some of these guys with the potential that they've got, if they can reach some of this potential, we might be looking at what I'm hoping becomes an elite squad. Mikey Moore, Nwaneri, Gyökeres can actually, I mean, he's already at his potential, but Fernandez can improve. Some of the youngsters on here, Lewis Skelly can become a really good player, hopefully. That's when maybe we can start to go and properly challenge the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool and Manchester City at the very top. But whilst we're in the Champions League, whilst we're here, it's going to be, it might be long term until we get to that point. But as long as we can keep qualifying for the Champions League, I think I'll be happy, as well as hopefully continuing our trend of this upward trend of the money and the Moneyball approach that we are going with. That hopefully sums things up. Let's go and play the first half of our 4th season, with that aim very much being keeping ourselves in the Champions League and maybe, just maybe, seeing if we can challenge at the very top. I'll see you in December and we'll talk transfers again. All right then, so about halfway through season number 4 at the club, and we sit pretty happily in 4th place. We have played 19, exactly halfway through, 36 points on the board, and we're sitting in the Champions League places. We haven't so far been able to mount that title challenge that I did think was a little bit unlikely. However, I was hoping that maybe we could surprise a few people. Hasn't quite been the case yet. We've played 19, won 11, drawn 3, lost 5 games so far. You see the losses on the screen there. We lost away at West Ham, got absolutely hammered 4-0. One of those that you can't really explain. Beaten by City, you can explain that. They're Manchester City. Beaten away at Leicester 2-1, which just felt like one of those days. Newcastle are really, really good. They beat us 2-0. They are 2nd in the league, by the way. And then we lost at home to Arsenal. So all of our losses are away from home, except for this Arsenal game, which I think was the first game of the season at the very beginning. It was literally first game of the season. So I'm sort of okay with where we're losing games. We've drawn a few games that I think are a little bit disappointing. Those drawn games, 3 of them, drew at home to Chelsea and then at home to Villa. Both of those I'd like to be winning because Chelsea are only 14th and Villa are dead last in the league. So those games are a disappointment. Away at Wolves, I think an away draw can happen at any point, but even them, they are just above the relegation zone. So if we can turn those draws into wins, that's an extra 6 points. We would be on 42. We'd be right up there challenging for the Manchester City at the top, 3 points behind them. So you can kind of see where things have gone wrong. I'll show you the results quickly, and then I want to jump into some of the data of some of our players so far, as well as maybe scheming a little bit for this upcoming January window. I've scaled back the amount of transfer stuff that I'm doing because at this point now it feels like I've built this squad and I want to see through the development of the squad and only really need to move transfer wise when a team bids for our player, for example, or if we need to replace somebody really quickly, or if there is an opportunity in the market to get somebody who is way below their value. For example, Ryan Gravenberch was an example of that I didn't really need a midfielder, but I just felt like there's value there, and I'm actually going to back that up by showing you some of his data at the start of this season. These are the results so far. I've talked you through really kind of how they are going, just to show you some of the cup competitions as well. In the EFL Cup, we have won against Stevenage, we've won against Wigan, and we lost to Leicester. We lost a penalty shootout here. We did get a last-minute equaliser, Gyökeres, and then Murillo missed his penalty. So we aren't going to win the EFL Cup, the Carabao Cup. We went out in the quarterfinal there. Champions League, though, in the league phase, we are just at the moment outside the qualifying group. We find this tough. We do. Admittedly, on my part, this might be where we need a slightly bigger squad, although I struggle with keeping everybody happy if we have a bigger squad. It's one of my preferences to have a smaller squad because it's much easier to manage the dynamics of everybody. Even Castrovilli, who I brought in as an impact sub, is now upset because he's not been happy with his game time because he's only played, I think it's 5 games off the bench. So smaller squad's just easier in my opinion, but maybe because of the quality of the players that we're slightly struggling when it comes to playing twice a week with playing Champions League games. 6 games in, we've only won 1, which was against Debreceni, and then we've drawn 3 against not great teams and lost twice against the better teams, which is Leipzig and Feyenoord. Still confident we can sneak into this top group here. Like, 1 win takes us to potentially 14th if everything goes well, but we need to be a little bit careful. The last games we've got there are Club Brugge and Real Madrid, so it could be a poor Champions League campaign, which means we have to make sure we get in it next year. I'm still hopeful that a win against Club Brugge might even just be enough on its own. But yeah, fingers crossed for that one. Otherwise, the results on here, you can see Manchester United, we beat them. You may just noticed a lot of the games has one name popping up in particular, and that is Victor Gyökeres. Also, Ethan Nwaneri doing very well as well. But Victor Gyökeres, for spending all that money on him, he is elite. He has been sensational. He has been everything we were kind of hoping him to be, which is why I've been chasing him around the world for about 3 seasons before this. He has been great. He's got 20 goals in his first 25 appearances, to 20 goals in 2,221 minutes, an average rating of 7.18. You can see him compared to other strikers here. He doesn't lose the ball. He's very like Emmanuel Omega in that regard, who it might be the way that we play, the systems that we're using, but he holds it up really nicely and then, of course, scores the goals. Non-penalty expected goals and goals expected, like 0.81 goals expected, or he's, sorry, I should say he is scoring 0.81 goals per 90. So he's almost going at a rate of 1 per game, which is why you've got 20 and 25. Obviously, does get a couple. He's got a couple of assists so far, so maybe we can increase that too. But he's a threat. Every single game, he's a threat, and he's 29 now. But I feel like we can get 3 or 4 more seasons out of him scoring goals. It's 12 league goals in 16 games, and then he's got 4 in 3 in the cup and 4 in 6 in the Champions League. So 20 and 25 all all in, which is already, he's got as many as he got in for Sporting last season. So that's going to be a nice tally. If we can get him 20 league goals, I think we've got ourselves a really good return from a striker that we've spent a lot of money on there. But I want to show you a little bit of data about the season so far, because I think it kind of tells the story of where we are in the league and how we've actually been performing. Something I love to look at is the XG table. I'm going to show you the same data that I showed you way back a couple of seasons ago in the first video of this series. This is where we're at about halfway through, or actually at the halfway point of this season. We sit fourth. According to our XG, we should be 6th. If you just look at the other teams around us, this is what we're up against. These are really, really good football teams, as well as the introduction of a couple of teams that are also really good at the moment, like Brighton, who are 5th in the league, and Liverpool, who should be 3rd according to their XG, but are actually 7th. So this top group of teams, I think we've established ourselves as one of them, but to actually overtake them and be the team that comes out on top is going to still be really difficult. Like, if we can win it, I've aimed at, I remember starting this series and thinking I'm going to do 3 of these videos, which means 6 seasons. It might have to be extended to 10 seasons. And if there's appetite from you guys watching it for me to do it for longer, then that's what we will do. But I want to try and win the league or the Champions League using Moneyball, because that's really seeing it through all the way, isn't it? At the moment, I'm finding it a little bit tough, but also I think that's a good thing. I think it keeps the appetite to actually play the game, doesn't it, when it is a little bit tough. We've won the league already by now. I think it would be a little bit OP, and I didn't want to do that, but it is tough. But I do want to keep going and plugging away at it and see if we can actually achieve what we want to achieve. According to the XG, we should be 6th, but we are currently 4th. That's not to do with our scoring, though. We are taking our chances. We are up there with the likes of Manchester City and Brighton, as I said. Palace having a really good season. Maybe they could be a little bit, score a few more goals, but their conversion rate's pretty good luck for when they are getting chances. It's City that are out in front in this regard. Interestingly, have a look at Liverpool, just not taking their chances, which is why they are way below where their XG says they should be. So I'd rather be up in this group over here. So scoring-wise, with Gyökeres leading that line, I'm happy. Defending-wise, this is a gain. I know I said it before, and I have made moves to try and improve things. This is a gain where I think we can improve. We're up there or around teams like Brighton, Newcastle, Brighton who are 5th, Newcastle who are actually 2nd, I think, and then Wolves who are not so good, down in 16th. We're at sort of this level, whereas you look at Spurs, Arsenal, City, Liverpool, we need to push ourselves down here. We need to not have to be making as many blocks per game and also as many clearances per game, because we have a bit more control of the game completely. So that's just because maybe our system, which led me, I'm just going to jump out of here a little bit. We'll look at the pitch tilt in a second, led me to, in a few games, make a bit of a change. We've been using this 4-2-3-1 system throughout the save so far. I have been tweaking slightly things like the out of possession and some of the instructions on here. For example, where is it? On out of possession here, I did change to stepping up more with our defensive line and trying to catch people offside, which I think has made a big difference, but it is kind of difficult to quantify that. But the big change that I have been doing is for some games dropping into this here. Now these two would swap. Using Nwaneri in a sort of Martin Ødegaard system. He's left-footed and can jump into this space around here in a more compact midfield 3 with Frendrup a little bit deeper, and then Gravenberch being just all action in the midfield, because I think he's our best player right now. Let me actually show you. Now's a good time to show you. Ryan Gravenberch's numbers as a defensive midfielder are almost out of this world. Have a look at that for a profile screen. He can do everything, can't he? He's winning the ball back loads. He is pushing the ball forward and creating things. He dribbles with the ball and carries it. His assists and his goal contributions are really good. He's got 4 goals, 5 assists from central midfield. Average rating is right up there. This is a serious midfielder. 6'3". It is no surprise to me that right now, despite him being so important to us, being wanted by Chelsea, I think we may be needing to prepare ourselves for a bid of around about 80 million for Ryan Gravenberch. And if we receive that, it's one of those where it's almost double what we paid for him. It's one of those where I go, let's have a look, see what he wants to do and make a decision on it. If I don't think that the money we're going to receive for him outweighs how important he is for us, I will say no. But if it's silly money, I don't know how we can actually say no. It just goes to show that even if you spend lots on a player, like 45 million is a lot, but he wasn't playing for Liverpool, you can still turn that into a little bit of a Moneyball signing, because you can back yourselves to get the best out of them. This is a good season so far, and there's value He's got ongoing sell-on value because of his age. When we signed him, he was 24, wasn't he? But a serious footballer, Ryan Gravenberch, alongside Frendrup, who again is just our guy in this midfield too, who just keeps doing a little bit of everything and captain in the side. He's also wanted, I should say, by lots of other teams. Real Madrid want Murillo. Al Ahly, of course they do, want Frendrup. There is still, of course, Saudi Arabian interest. Kino Potter, once again, Brighton looking at him. And then Omega's wanted. I do need to think about what we do with Emmanuel Omega. Probably his value is going to drop down if I don't start getting him some game time. So I might need to rest Gyökeres a bit more, who is needing a rest right now, to give Omega a bit more game time. I need to think about that because he was so good for us a couple of seasons ago, wasn't he? I don't want to just him to fade away because I've not played him enough. So I am trying to rotate. You can see by the appearances made by different players on here. This is very much the first 11, but lots of sub appearances from Zalazar, lots of starts from Aaron Hickey, lots of starts for Saforza, 9 of them as well. 7 from Christopher Wu. Bade started 3. Bade has dropped in as third choice in terms of centre backs. That's because he had an injury and then didn't get back in because Quaresma was really good. His form's dropped off a little bit, so I wonder if it might be time to put Bade back in alongside Murillo. Murillo very much for me at the moment seems to be the better of the defender options. I really do rate him very highly. I mean, it's only a 6.86 average rating, but he seems to be good. And Real Madrid are now looking at him, so there must be something in that, mustn't there? That's kind of the situation, though. We do have, of course, loads of money, £260 million to spend. We're at £200 million overall balance. I will be probably looking at just if we sell anybody, seeing if we need to replace anyone. At the moment, there's not loads in terms of what I'm looking at to try to buy. If I show you the shortlist, a few of those players are now interested. However, I mean, Angelo still are not interested in joining us, but they've kind of got massive values now, the players that I've been tracking for a while. I did add a few extra players to some of these, but at the moment, there's no one I'm kind of really looking at thinking I need to sign them because I'm quite happy with where the squad is, and I'd rather get to the end of the season and then maybe reassess at that point. So I'm going to go and do January, but I'm sort of quietly hoping for it to be a quiet one. So I'll see you at the end of January. All right, so exactly what we didn't want to happen happened. Ryan Gravenberch, the man I was just professing basically my undying love towards, has been bought. I've had to sell him. He's gone to Milan for a serious amount of money, actually. £81 million, which does rise to £91 million. I'm calling that 90 million, and I'm calling that doubling our money on him after a season and a half at the club is actually what you could say. He's gone to Milan. They put him on £230,000 per week, and I just couldn't really say no to this. I mean, he's made an amazing start. I know it's only 3 games for Milan, but he scored twice in those games, and he's just a monster. So, after what I was hoping would be a very quiet January window, I've had to do some business. It is sort of the way of this save, and I know that you guys love transfers. Do you love them as much as me? I would contend that against most people because I do love a transfer. So let's have a look at the transfers first, and then I'll let you know how we've done in terms of results on the pitch as well. Those transfers are 2 incomings this January, as well as 2 outgoings this January. Ryan Gravenberch, I told you, there it is, 91 million, and another pretty sad one, really, and one that if this wasn't Bayern Munich, if it was, say, a Saudi team, which they haven't bought any of our players for the first time in a transfer window for what seems like years and years and years. Aaron Hickey has gone to Bayern Munich. Because it was Bayern Munich, I've applied my own logic of, would he really want to go there? I think he would. Could I say no to a really good bid? The answer was no. He wasn't our starting left back. Rico Lewis still has that spot. And I decided that this makes a bit of sense. It's 38 million, so it's good money. That would actually rise up to 43 million pounds as well. It does leave us a little bit short. I'm not going to lie to you, which isn't necessarily the Moneyball way, because you want to make sure you have players that can play on the pitch. You still want to be competitive, don't you? But you back yourself to be competitive by spending a little bit less. Aaron Hickey has moved on, so I did go out and try to find a left back that would hopefully be able to come into our squad that would be really cheap. And that man is Andre Borza, who is yet to make an appearance for us. His value is at £10 million. On the screen right now, though, you can see some of his data that I extracted and put through the spreadsheet, and he came out very favourably in that. So this is the justification. He was playing for Rapid Bucharesti, where he was playing pretty well. 15 games so far this season. 3 assists, 1 player of the match, a 7 average rating. He's only 22 years old, and I'm hoping he can be a little bit of a Moneyball signing for us. At the very least, he's going to be a second choice left back in our team behind Rico Henry, of course. So he's only going to be second choice. And he's going to be a much cheaper alternative to Aaron Hickey. Fingers crossed he can actually develop and become a really good player, though. And then also I brought in a long-term target from this save. You may have seen him on a lot of different player search screens and shortlist screens too. Franco Mastantuono is... Well, I mean, have a look at his starts. It's only 437 minutes in these first 5, but he's a bit of an all-rounder. If you put him in this attacking midfield comparison, or maybe as an inside forward, he is a serious player. Let me show you his data from his time at River Plate on the screen now, and you'll see that actually he was doing the business whilst playing for River Plate as well. In those games, he played 27 times. He scored 8 goals, got 3 assists and 3 player of the matches in that time as well, and just came out very favourably in the data for a 20-year-old that we could get for just the small price of 9 million. I think this one is one that you couldn't really say no to. He's already played 3 games in January, scored a goal, got 2 assists as well. You see his data in these first few games too. I think we may have found a gem here. Not found a gem. I know that you guys know who this guy is, but I think we may have managed to bring a gem to Brentford. Him alongside Nwaneri and Mikey Moore and Lewis Skelly, this group of young players that we're hoping become the next generation that take Brentford to the very top. Fingers crossed he can be one of them. I've been playing him in this number 10 role here with Nwaneri playing a little bit wide. They can actually interchange and go into the different positions. Lots of our attacking players can interchange. You've seen also, I did talk about it, Emmanuel Omega has played a few games in January, started 7 now, scored 8 goals, just to rest Gyökeres, who now does have 23 goals, all competitions. It's been a bit of a weird January. We finished January going into Feb now in 5th. And I feel like we've actually been quite good. We've won our last 2 games. We did drop points in the 2 games before that, but I think we've played better this January than we had been previously. But some of the results didn't necessarily go our way. I'll show you here. Look, we lost to Liverpool because Liverpool are really very good. Emmanuel Omega did score twice. We beat Fulham, beat QPR in the FA Cup, lost to Arsenal because Arsenal are really good. Drew to Palace because... it was a last-minute equaliser from Keane Lewis Potter. Beat Newcastle. We did beat Club Brugge in the Champions League. Now, this was important because we needed to win this to be able to qualify for the next round, didn't we? We did beat them, and then we lost to Real Madrid. But in the Champions League, we did go through. We've got Gothenburg, or Göteborg, if you read the name like this. Gothenburg in the next round. The league phase finished off like... this. We snuck through 23rd out of 24 with 9 points, level on points with Club Brugge, who we beat, and they went out. I think it was our goal difference that saw us through there. So it wasn't the best league campaign from us, but we now have a game that I think we can go and win as well. So that might take us through and make it a successful Champions League run after all at the end of it. And then most recently we did beat Leicester as well, a hat-trick from Omega in this one. Mastantuono got himself a goal in that as well, and it leaves us in 5th, 2 points off 4th and a little bit behind the top 3 now. So what is it, 8 points behind Newcastle, or behind Spurs in 3rd, and then 10 points behind Newcastle in 2nd. It is a bit of a race for 4th spot, or maybe we'd be relying on finishing 5th and hoping that one of the teams above us wins one of the cups to sneak into the Champions League again. It's a little bit touch and go. It's definitely narrowed what our aim is for the rest of this season. In the remaining of this season now, we just have to try and get ourselves into the Champions League spots. I'm going to go and play those games now, using this system, using the 4-3-3 that I showed you as well, trying to get ourselves up to the point where, well, also, we've got a bit of a keeper issue going on at the moment. Heddle's injured. He's got 12 days. He's got a virus. And now Balcom's torn his groin. So we've got a bit of a keeper issue at the moment, but I'm sure we'll be able to sort that out. 12 days. We're going to have to play Brighton without a keeper and maybe use a youngster in there. But these things happen. This is the squad right now. I'm going to go and play the rest of those games. I'll see you at the end of the season. And remember, I did promise to do a live com. I'm going to do a live com in the next game. I'm going to try and pick a game that I think is useful, maybe towards the end of the season, especially if we're going for Champions League. But we'll see. I'm going to choose a game so that we do actually do a live com in today's video. So I'll see you for that. Right. So the rest of the season hasn't gone completely to plan. After losing Gravenberch in that January, we've had to settle for using players like Guan Saforza in the midfield. We've ended up finishing... well, we might end up finishing just outside the Champions League places. This is because, not I don't think because we've been poor, but because the teams around us at the very top of the league have been very consistent and very, very good. We're 6th going in to the final game of the season. We are 2 points off 5th and 2 points off 4th, meaning there is still a chance that we qualify automatically for the Champions League. And there is also a chance that if we finish 5th, we also qualify for the Champions League, because there are a couple of teams who are in the Champions League. I think there's a Champions League final here. Is it City that are in there? No, Europa League final is City against Fulham, meaning they qualify for the Champions League, which would give us an extra Champions League place, I think. All of this means that there's a lot riding on this final game of the season, which is why I've returned now to play the final game of the season as our live com. Let me show you the results leading to this final game of the season, which is at home to Liverpool. Underperforming Liverpool, who are now 7th, and they also want to try and finish 6th. I think they can go above us if they win as well. No, they can't. They are 64 points, so they can qualify themselves and keep themselves in Europe, but not necessarily the Champions League. I've also made peace with myself at this stage. If we end up in the Europa League, that might not be the worst thing, because maybe we could go and win it, which would actually be really good. So I'm going to make myself feel better by saying that, but really, you don't want to go from finishing the Champions League places 2 years in a row to then suddenly not being in it. So I'd like to win this last game and see if we can get there. We have, just in terms of results in here, in terms of player performances throughout the season, we've been weird. We've had a up and down February, a terrible March. We lost in the Champions League. We went out in the round of, I think it was round of 16. Is that correct here? The final, by the way, Marseille versus Juventus, Champions League final. I think it's round of 16 we went out to. We got Bayern Munich and got beaten 6-1. They beat us 4-1 in the second leg. So beat us 2-0 and then 4-1. So they've beaten us 6-1 on aggregate. They were just way too good for us. That was Aaron Hickey's Bayern Munich beating us in that one. So we didn't go and win that one. FA Cup quarterfinal, we lost to Liverpool, who we play today. Omega scored twice in that one, and I'd already shown you when we'd gone out of the Carabao Cup, hadn't I? After our terrible March, though, we had an amazing April. In fact, we've won every game since then, beaten Southampton, Wolves, Hull, West Ham, Bournemouth and Manchester United. Victor Gyökeres has ended up on 21 league goals. 32 goals in all competitions. He is electric. I'm hoping he is going to fire us back into the European places now. He is wanted, by the way, by Chelsea, Milan and Al Ahly. I don't know where Milan have got their money from, but if they buy Gravenberch and Gyökeres off us for silly, silly money, I am going to be a little bit upset, because it's been a good first season. 21 in the league. I said he was aiming for 20. He's got lots in the other competitions too. 32. If he gets a hat-trick today, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? 24 league goals. That sounds good to me. Then this is what we're up against. I'm just going to show you as well the other teams. Arsenal, we need one of these two teams to drop points. Their games aren't too bad, but they are all away from home. Arsenal have Hull away. Hull are finishing 14th. They're actually staying up. Fair play to Hull. So Arsenal are away at Hull, and the other team is Brighton. Brighton, who are currently in 4th spot, they are away at Everton. They then got an FA Cup final and a Conference League final. Now, I don't know how this works here, but I don't think that helps us in terms of getting an extra spot, because they just qualify for the Europa League by winning this, right? If they win the FA Cup, that's also a Europa League place. So I don't think that helps us. We really need City to win the Europa League and us to finish 5th at the very minimum here. So we need Brighton or Arsenal, or both, to drop some points here. So let's get ourselves ready for this game as we head into what is going to be a make or break final game of the season. This, I think, is going to be the team. It's going to be Heddle in goal, Tobias, and what's looking at the screen here and showing you the tactic squad lineup for today's game. You can see some of the stats for some of the players and how they've performed since January or since February onwards. Tobias has played 37 games. I've just offered him a new contract because he wants a new one reflecting his performance. Amazing average rating, 7.1. He's actually been, in terms of an average rating, except for Mustantuono, who's come in and played a lot of games and scored 10. By the way, I think we just need to give this guy his flowers. 20 years old and has come in and done this. Have a look for a start in the Premier League at 20 games, 10 goals, 9 assists from that attacking midfield spot, sometimes playing wide as well. We've got ourselves, I did say, a real gem on our hands. He's currently injured. He's going to miss this game, which is a shame. He twisted his ankle. So Nwaneri's going to go back into the middle here. But Nwaneri's had a good season as well, got 9 goals. It's going to be Tobias at right back, who's been great. Bade and Murillo. Bade's been better recently than Quaresma, who I'm going to drop to the bench. His average ratings haven't been as good. His performances haven't been as good. Murillo is first choice. No longer wanted by Real Madrid, by the way. Bade is wanted by Burnley. Maybe that shows his level. Maybe we need a new centre-back in the summer, if I can find one. Rico Henry, still very good. Frendrup and Safors has come in as first choice since the exit of Ryan Gravenberch and been pretty good, especially recently. 31 games from him now, and I think there's plenty of assists in there as well, actually. There's 6 assists, look. So he's been very good. I knew that he was good, which is another reason why I was okay with Gravenberch going, even though Gravenberch was so good for us. And Buemo on the right hand side, he's wanted by a Saudi team. Shock horror. Nwaneri, we talked about. 14 goals, by the way, from Buemo. Keane Lewis Potter is just that guy. 12 goals from him, 16 assists from him. Just honestly, I have no words left to describe Keane Lewis Potter. You sign him in your save. Seriously, he doesn't look... I don't know what his attributes look like. I'm assuming they don't look as good as this performance makes him look, because I've never noticed or found the need to sign him in any other save before. But just this is where a Moneyball save changes things, and having them hidden changes your perspective of players. This guy, as far as I'm concerned, is Lionel Messi, because look at the return. Season upon season, he's got 8+ goals and 5+ assists in every season so far in the Premier League, that is. So even more assists. He got 16 assists this year. What a player. Love him to bits. He plays on the left, and then Gyökeres leads the line with his 32 goals. Got a couple of assists as well. He's got 3 assists now. He's got added an extra one since before. That means we have Omega on the bench. 13 games from Mikey Moore now. 13 starts from Mikey Moore. He's been good, actually. Lewis Skelly has started 11. I have been rotating a lot more second half of the season. Martin Fernandez hasn't played loads. Christopher Wu wants to leave after only starting 8. Borza hasn't played loads, but has been fine in those games. Quaresma played 46. He's been good, but as I explained, Bade's just ahead of him at the moment. And Mastantuono, I told you about before, unavailable today, which is a shame because he is so good. That's the team. I'm going to get ourselves up to... It's not actually game time. We need to go an extra day. Going to get ourselves into this game, and hopefully we can do the business. Come on. Okay, teams are warming up. Fingers crossed we can get ourselves into the Champions League this season again. If we don't, I'm sort of... Yeah, there's supposed to be ups and downs in a series, right? We're not supposed to... We've what was it? I think it's 6th, 5th, 4th in the 3 seasons so far. If we drop back down again, you guys can call me a failure if you like in the comments, but I think that's part of it. You want that in a series. I think so anyway. There's our 11 looking resplendent in the West London sun today in what is a May afternoon. I don't know why I'm being Peter Drury all of a sudden. Here we go though. We are underway. First 5 minutes. Let's have a look at the team stats, which the stats overall, which helps me to see how the game's going. Are we behind the goal for some reason? I know why. That's because I was making a meme of Gary Barlow's son, and I needed a good shot of Victor Gyökeres to do so. Did get a lot of likes though, so sort of worth it. Anyway, we digress. Here we go again. It's Bamba out to Trent, who's inverting into this midfield. Victor Gyökeres has won it. High up the pitch. Here we go. The Bees are on the attack. It's not where I want you, Gyökeres, necessarily. But Keane Lewis Potter, what a weird goal. It's an own goal from Ibrahima Bamba, and we will absolutely take it. I don't know what I've just seen. It's the most Football Manager thing I think you will ever see. Gyökeres runs down the left. I think it comes towards Keane Lewis Potter from the Rico Henry cross. And they kind of just... What is Georgi Mamadashvili doing? We're not going to ask any questions. We are just going to say that is brilliant news. What I want to see now, can I see on here things like other results? I can go to the matches tab. We need to keep an eye on Arsenal and Brighton. 0-0 in both of those games. As things stand, we would be heading into 4th place at the end of this season. I don't know. It goes to goal difference first. I think we've got a good goal difference compared to them as well. Here we go with Liverpool on the attack though. I think that's Alexis McAllister standing over the ball, taking his time. Should we go defensive now? Should I park the bus to finish in 4th? Like 4th would be great because it'd be 6th, 5th, 4th, 4th. He's hit the post. Or clip to the bar there. Header will had it covered, I reckon. That was fine. Brighton and Arsenal games both 0-0 still as we head in to about half an hour on the clock. 1-0. City have scored. City are going to... City have won the title actually, haven't they? We are leading against Liverpool. We are joint on points with Brighton and Arsenal because of this win. Is that actually how it is? If they draw and we win, we are joint on points with them. If they lose, though, if either of them lose, that would really help us because a draw... I don't think a draw would actually even be enough then. It's very... We need to win and them to not win, basically. At least one of them anyway. At the moment, we're overtaking both of them at half-time. No changes from me. A change from Liverpool as Luis Diaz comes on. I should have a look at how we're playing. we're not performing particularly well, all things considered. Are we? We've had one shot on target, and it wasn't even on target, and we've scored the goal. Okay, Liverpool are dominating the game, but we haven't seen highlights of them dominating the game, so I think we're okay. Here we go on the ball again. We have our own quality, but that wasn't quality. Liverpool have got it. The sub Diaz is into the box. Oh my word, what an introduction. Okay. It's that's not ideal. It's 1-1. Liverpool have been the better team, and that is really poor from Juan Forza, who's given it away. And Diaz, fresh off the bench, is just, I mean, he's just wellied it in at the far post. Look, it's a lovely finish. It's actually near post. Heddle should have done better, to be honest. How Arsenal are winning as well. Arsenal have taken the lead against Hull. It puts us back in 6th. We need to take the lead again, or we need Everton to take the lead against Brighton. Everton are okay, right? They're a decent team at home. At the moment, things aren't going our way. I am going to make a change, I think. Let's go and have a look at what we can do to improve things here. Keane Lewis-Potter's not playing great. Rico Henry's not having a good game either. This is quite annoying. Who do we even go for? Keane Lewis-Potter at 4. We've got Mikey Moore can make an impact. We've seen that before in live comms before. I am tempted to throw a mega on. How's Ethan Nwaneri playing? Not amazing. I'm going to do something that I have done a few times this season and go with the 2 strikers up front. We'll go with double AFs like this, and we're going to throw Emmanuel Omega. Because he's so big, it might just make things happen. And I'm also going to bring Borza on at left back because Rico Henry wasn't having a good game. Just seeing if a slight change of shape and having a few more players forward might make the difference. Can create a chance for us, because we've not created anything so far. Let's just see. How is... Oh, hello. Oh, hello. It's not enough, but Hull City in 2 minutes have turned it around against Arsenal and now lead. I don't think that's updated on the table here, has it? I know it has. We're now 1 point behind them. A goal for us would take us above Arsenal. We have a highlight. It's Liverpool on the ball, though. It doesn't matter if we lose to Liverpool, who we know are a great team. It might be Europa League for us next season. Luis Diaz is just... Oh, my word, it's put it wide. I thought that was in. I was sure that was going to nestle in the back of the net, just like his first goal did. And it was almost the exact same chance as well, wasn't it? Corner from McAllister. Heddle has claimed it. A late goal for us could be magical here. Still 0-0 with Everton and Brighton. If they drop points, it doesn't help us either. We need a goal. Even with Arsenal losing, we still remain a point behind them. We need a goal. I need to do something a little bit more drastic. We need to go to attacking. We need to look at where we're not creating much and change something. I'm going to move Saforza a bit further forward and bring on Zalazar, I think. It's a little bit crazy, this, but it's just numbers getting forward. So we're going to go attacking, just get numbers forward, just because we've got nothing to lose. Like, we're going to finish 6th if we win this game or if we lose this game. Arsenal have equalised. It still would be enough for us to score a goal, right? Because it would put us on 74 with a better goal difference. We still just need a goal. 5 to play. Can we carve out one chance? There is a highlight. Bade's got it at the back. We've got no midfield, basically. It's Martin Frendrup holding it down on his own in there. So we're going to need to try and bypass that by going long, which is the plan. We've got 2 big strikers. It's bounced back down to Emmanuel Omega, who's put it wide. That is the game plan. Almost exactly. It's go long, see if we get a knockdown, and then put it in the net. And Emmanuel Omega usually is so good at putting them in, but he didn't. Few more minutes to play. I think it's going to be heartbreak, despite it ending up being... Oh, Brighton have just missed the penalty as well. If we score now, it would be glorious, but we're not even getting a chance. It's going to be... Oh, that sucks. It's a really good result against a really good Liverpool team. We didn't play great, but we did make the chance happen at the end by going slightly more direct. It's going to be a disappointing, but maybe a realistic... 6th place finish this season. The teams around us are just so strong, and we've ended up losing one of our better players in Ryan Gravenberch halfway through the season, and maybe that's what paid to our challenge to get into this top 4. I think, annoyingly, if Man City win that Europa League, I think we end up being the first Europa League team, and these first 5 will be Champions League contenders or Champions League in the Champions League next year. I'm actually going to go, before we finish up today's video, I'm going to go and find out exactly what we're going to be playing in next year. When is that Man City Europa League final? Because I feel like it's something Conference League place goes to the league. We know that. Forest just got relegated. There might be some players we can look at from there as well. I'm going to go and find out if we're in the Champions League or not, and then we'll finish up the video from there. Okay, so I've gone to the point where Man City have played that Europa League final. They did beat Fulham 3-0 in the final. However, and this is slightly concerning, I think we're in the Conference League for next season, which does now mean that we have to go and win that competition. And anything less than that, I think is going to be a disappointment. Europa League for Arsenal, and then it's Champions League for the first four. Maybe it's to do with the coefficient, and maybe we've dropped off a little bit. But City have taken a Champions League spot because they won the league. You'd think that we'd get an extra one because of it, but maybe I'm just wrong here. Let me know in the comments down below if you can see why this is the case. It's Marseille Juventus in the Champions League final, and it looks like we've just got 4 Champions League spots, maybe to do with the coefficient, as I said, maybe other, because we've not got anyone in the Champions League final, maybe, but even the Europa League win you'd think would have done. But anyway, we're going to be playing Conference League football unless something changes, in which case you'll find out at the start of next episode. It's a 6th place finish, a little bit disappointing, but once again, we've got serious money to go and spend if we want to go and improve from this point on here. The budget we've been given is £325 million, which of course we're not going to go and do, but there is lots of business that we can hopefully try and get done as well as seeing which players we hold on to, because once again, Saudi teams are looking at our players. So there is that always to contend with. I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you've made it to the end. If you have made it to the end, here's my test for you. You can leave a $sign emoji as a comment, and that shows that you're a real OG that watched the entire video, so you're a legend if you have done that. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, if you want to see, and make sure you don't miss the next episode of this, where we're going to try and win the Conference League and maybe get back into the Champions League from here with a bit of wheeling and dealing. Also, leave a like on the video if you have enjoyed it. I love making these, but I sort of need to know from you guys if it's worthwhile doing these long videos like this. Thank you so much though. Have a lovely rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.